What's going on, guys? Another episode of GainzPodcast. We have episode 7. Dang.
Lucky number 7.
Happy Thanksgiving. We forgot to mention, since we were going to release the other one the day after Thanksgiving, but hopefully you guys had a great Thanksgiving. We got Roman back in the building. He was gone for a whole week. I had no idea what to do with my life without him. It's just, since this podcast, it's just like we're a never-ending love story. But anyways, I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. We're glad to have Roman back in action. He's back in Chicago. We're all good to go. Episode 7, we're going to be talking about more into nutrition. We're going to be talking about the CICO method, which is calories in, calories out, as well as some nutritional myths we see or we've seen or hear throughout the industry. And we'll kind of talk about like how it's kind of either busted or, there's a little bit more information and it's a little bit too specific. So we're going to start with, I'm Antoine, by the way. This is
Roman.
I've totally forgot to do that. It's been a while. We haven't recorded in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We did 2 episodes 2 weeks ago, and that was a lot of work. We were trying to get everything caught up. Roman was trying to get everything caught up for work. And I think you were just exhausted. You were probably mentally and physically exhausted that whole week long. Yeah. And I made poor old Roman over here record 2 episodes that week. And Roman was probably like, man, what the hell?
It's good.
Were you fine with it?
Yeah, it's cool.
So yeah, we're going to start off with the CICO method right now and then kind of go over that piece. And then, you want to start it off?
Yeah, so calories in, calories out, you might see it abbreviated as CICO or CICO or CICO method. I'm not really even sure 100% how to say it.
Was I saying CICO? CICO?
That sounds great to me. But you'll see that a lot in health and wellness spaces, and essentially what it means is the calories that you take in. So last podcast, 2 podcasts ago. Last podcast, we covered some basic nutrition facts like protein is 4 calories per gram. Carbohydrates are approximately 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate, and fats are 9 grams per gram of fat.
9 calories per gram.
9 calories per gram of fat, thank you. So when you combine all that, let's say in the morning, you eat 5 whole eggs with half an avocado and a glass of chocolate milk. Okay, well, you have calories from that, so you got to calculate that. All right, 5 grams of fat per large egg, 6 grams of protein, etc. You do the math, or you use an app like MyFitnessPal to calculate that for you. So let's say you have 3 additional meals throughout the day. You calculate what your caloric intake was throughout the day. Okay, so let's say you got to 3,000 calories. Okay, now what the hell does that mean? So that means that you took in approximately 3,000 of these energy units. Now, depending on your size, how active you are, that determines the other side of the equation, or the calories outside. So let's say you're a 6'2", 252-pound,
a big boy,
defensive linebacker for the Chicago Bears or something along those lines. Most likely, based off your daily activity, especially this time of year, you're going to need a whole lot more than 3,000 calories. So in this instance, you'd be in what's called a caloric deficit. So let's say your maintenance requirement, or the amount to maintain the same body weight in perpetuity, for the most part, is 4,000 calories. So you would be in a 1,000 calorie deficit, or you would be losing about 1/3 of a pound approximately per day. That's the best way to look at it, based off of hydration, based off of different electrolyte balances in your body, glycogen stores. Your body weight can fluctuate up and down, but the basic thing to glean from this is, with calories in, calories out, it's a balance. So if the calories in are greater than the calories going out, or the amount you expend, then you're going to be gaining weight if this is a continual trend. If you are balancing the calories in, so you're eating 3,000 calories, your body's burning 3,000 calories, then you are approximately at maintenance. And if In the linebacker example, your body's requirement is 4,000 per day to maintain the same body weight, and you're eating 3,000, you're in a caloric deficit. So some other terms that thrown out, caloric deficit, meaning that in total you're going to be losing weight as time compounds, so day after day, week after week, month after month. Maintenance means that you're going to stay about the same. Isocaloric diet, same thing as maintenance. Those two go hand in hand, are synonymous with each other. And caloric surplus, meaning that you're eating over your daily requirement of calories, and you will be gaining weight.
Question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. So for like that defensive linebacker, like let's just say 4,000's maintenance, 3,000's deficit. You know, obviously anything over 4,000 is a surplus at that point in time. Typically, like, how long do you notice changes? Like, is it something that you're going to see pretty quickly on your day-to-day weigh-ins? Or do you suggest, like, hey, maybe kind of run it a couple weeks and see how it goes? Because most of the time, if you're doing these calculations and 4,000 calories is a maintenance, it doesn't always mean it's always 100% accurate. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so you won't see changes day to day unless you're looking at yourself mostly naked in the mirror throughout the day, and those changes that you will see are just based off of how fuel's being mobilized in the body. But overall, the scale won't really move if you're doing this, if it's being appropriately applied. And being appropriately applied is difficult to say just like in general, but I'd say if you were losing, unless you were extremely obese, meaning maybe you needed to lose several hundred pounds to get to what doctors or even yourself you think is more of a healthy weight.
Mm-hmm.
To lose something like a pound a day would be a lot of weight, a lot of weight. So in that instance, that linebacker, if they continually ate that diet, they would see them losing about a pound every 3 to 4 days on average. So that gives you a good idea of what that looks like. So is it measurable? Over time, yeah, weeks, months. But is it something that you're going to see like the next day? No, and that's not something to be like freak out about.
Yeah. I just wanted to go over that because it's like, you know, a lot of people are trying to get like 10 pounds off in 10 days, which is really weird to see, and our bodies also probably don't like that as well. And also another follow-up question to that, like if someone's going on a surplus or deficit in terms of nutrition, what is like this? What do you like to suggest when it comes to like losing or gaining weight? Because I feel like we might have a different opinion on this, but like what would you say like is a healthy losing weight or healthy gaining weight?
I'd say it has to be pretty slow and controlled.
Yeah.
So you run into issues when you try to do like 100 to 200 calories in either direction, just based off of how slow it is. So let's say me, for example. I'll take myself. I'll be selfish. Take myself as an example. I started my like weight gain phase at about 135 pounds, and I wanted to get to 155 by the end of this year. I quickly put on weight because I think, in my opinion, my body needed it, and it was being starved for protein and other nutrients. Just like based off, I wasn't eating like terribly, but I was just eating such a small amount, and I wasn't performing resistance exercise training. So I think my body was pretty prime to take up food and start to gain muscle tissue pretty quickly. So I quickly revised that to 165 pounds. And that was over a course of about 13 to 14 months that I planned on gaining essentially 20 pounds, which became 30 pounds. That being said, that ends up averaging out to about 2 to 3 pounds per month.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to track overall. Totally doable. Yeah. Because that was a goal that I was continually checking in with myself, and I had peaks and troughs, areas where I was gaining, probably more than that, areas where some months I just stayed the same. I was at like 158 for maybe 2.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't break through that plateau. But yeah, when it comes to gaining, losing weight, like 100 to 200 calories would be kind of hard to track. So my general recommendation is between 250 to 500 because it's a little easier to track.
Yeah.
You can gain or lose about a pound a week if you're towards that 500 calories in excess or deficit of your maintenance requirement. And at the 250, it's about a pound every 2 weeks. So that's something that's a little bit more manageable to track. And I do think that this should be averaged on a weekly basis, just based off on how much scale weight changes. So
and food too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, depending on like weekly averages, I always found too where, like, I would suggest this to Roman sometimes when, you know, he's expending a lot of energy like on leg days or your longer leg days. I would kind of suggest, and I was telling him like, hey, like, you know, obviously I do like the recording on my food on my apps and all that. Roman has like a better, more of an intuitive kind of mindset when it comes to that. What I suggested to him is like, hey, like look at your calories in, calories out, kind of like on a weekly basis, and kind of schedule some of those food days on the most expending, you know, energy days. So when he was saying that he was feeling kind of like crappy and down on like those leg days because it's a lot, especially like I know how it is too. You know, you're putting a lot of load. It's mostly full body movements. It's not just the legs with squats and deadlifts and all this stuff. Is you put a higher caloric intake on a leg day or 2 leg days. Overall, if you're averaging the same amount throughout the whole week, like if you take the 7 days, divide them by 7, and they come out to like 3,000 calories, then you're fine. Like say one day you eat 2,000 or 3,400, 3,500. The next day you do 2,500. I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of like averaging it out. And that's what is a great thing you said and mentioned is looking on like a weekly basis. Because I think if you're looking on a daily basis, you're going to just get screwed or you're going to fail because like, how many times can you just say, like, you can't say you failed because of one day. Like, it's kind of like I was going to do this post the other day, but it's like kind of like Thanksgiving. Like, if you're really serious, which, you know, obviously on the holidays, I don't ever want people to be serious because I've been there, and it's like a terrible mindset. If you're really serious, what you could have did was kind of gave yourself like 1,000 calorie break on each day and just kind of went ham on Thanksgiving for like one meal instead of like all day long. And you probably would have averaged yourself on either the calorie surplus or the deficit side. Because last week, I went to 2 Thanksgiving dinners, and my weight throughout the whole week was pretty much static still. Because once your body gets those food calories and all that energy in those 2 days, you probably still, no matter if you're intuitively eating, like kind of like Roman, you're gonna balance yourself out either way. Because I mean, the next day after you ate Thanksgiving dinner, you probably didn't pound a lot of food like Friday. Yeah. You just like were like, well, I already have all this energy, like, and I'm not. If I'm on vacation, like, am I gonna be eating 4,000 or 5,000 calories type deal? Yeah. So I just wanted to expand on like that weekly part where it's just like, hey, look at this throughout a weekly manner or even a monthly manner, even if you don't want to take it that serious. Yeah. And also to his point too, I think I like for suggestion when it comes to losing weight, he did a good job explaining like, hey, if he started doing resistance training again, you did put on a lot of weight, which is really good for either beginners or someone that's been out of the game. Like Roman used to lift a lot in high school and then like kind of took it easy, and then now he's back into it. But like someone that's been in the scene like me, for instance, when I gain like 30 pounds in a year, and Roman can tell you this too, is I'll put on a lot of body fat. Honestly, if that's kind of a goal to kind of improve lifts, then it's no problem. But if you're an intermittent lifter or advanced lifter, I always kind of do smaller numbers in a more controlled deficit or surplus, like maybe like 1 pound a month. I know he was saying like 2 to 3 pounds, which, you know, obviously he manages it and he knows how to manage it, and I do it too as well. But like say like if you're trying to lose weight, what I've seen in my experience in life is if I do a deficit so fast, my body won't look as good. Meaning, in my opinion, I think your body can't always synthesize the deficit as fast as you think it can. Because I've done cuts where I've dropped like 30 pounds in a year, 20 pounds in a year, and it doesn't look as good. And I'm telling you this because I take pictures all the time. And even if you don't want to weigh yourself, take pictures in the mirror. I think that's a good idea, and when I've done like cuts of 30 pounds within a year, even shorter time, I just didn't notice a better look. I think I was still kind of like fluffier. I feel like I still had a good amount of body fat on me, and I was losing more muscle than fat, which I think that's like a good, kind of suggestion when it comes to intermediate or advanced lifters.
Yeah. So, a couple of important takeaways from that. Your body is meant to survive, or it will drive to survive, meaning that if your deficit is so drastic that you're feeling super lethargic, headaches, like feeling dehydrated, symptoms of dehydration, your body may be using protein or tissue, the energy that's stored in tissue, so it might start breaking down proteins that make up your muscle to mobilize that for fuel. So that's a very important consideration for if you're looking to diet for anything, if you're looking to diet for a show, a bodybuilding show, if you're looking to diet for the summer, if you're looking to diet for, a lot of people want to diet for their wedding, women want to make sure that they fit in their wedding dress, whatever it may be. Slow and controlled is probably a much better and safer approach. And then also, it's okay if in the short term, if you don't want to weigh yourself on a scale, but I would recommend at some point doing check-ins, figure out whatever like interval would work for you. Because the issue with looking at photos, because since it's only one variable, are you looking at the same time every day?
Yeah.
Is your eating regimen at the same time? Because muscle bellies are going to look more full or flat, meaning that they're quite literally not as full of
that's what I forgot to
stores.
mention too. Just to be a little bit more specific on that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So you can definitely do that, but I'll fool myself sometimes and say like, am I messing something up? Like my arms look smaller than they looked the other day. That is such a subjective measure, and
it's kind of hard too to look at yourself and make that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of times, what is it called, bigtism?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Whenever you start lifting, there's that meme where it's once you start lifting, you'll never be as big as you really want to look.
Yeah.
Like no matter how big you get, either through natural or drugs, you'll never be as big as you really like want to be.
Yeah. So I think that it's like it's a tricky, treacherous road that you potentially go down. So I would urge you, all our listeners out there, if you feel like you're going down that path, it might be appropriate for you to step away for a little bit and just try and reframe everything. Because in the grand scheme of things, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're performing resistance exercise training, if you're performing aerobic endurance training, what's the eventual end goal? You might have like an event that you're training for. That's all fine and well. But what after that? I would say, what's next? Beg the question, what's next? Because what I'm really doing this for is my overall health and wellness. So if I'm ever doing something that is in my mind, or when I like calculate the risks as best as I can, if the risks far outweigh the reward, then there's no reason to continue on that path. So there's no reason to like get yourself into like a psychological deficit where you might develop like an eating disorder or like body dysmorphia or something along those lines. I think that this has to come from like a place of loving yourself and loving, whatever activities you're doing. So just take that with a grain of salt. But no, from a subjective measurement, I would say if you combine that with other things, looking at like progress photos, a lot of people do it like once a month. I think that's for next year, as part of my like phase 2 of my weight gain process, I'm planning on doing it about once a week, but I'm also going to look at it with weight measurements. I'm going to look at it with adherence to my diet.
Aren't you going to actually do like measurements too?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, so like muscle belly like measurement. So I want to get like the actual like, I think they call it girth, but like when you measure like the whatever area it is, like the middle of the humerus. So trying to measure like the bicep and the tricep, measuring the chest, the waist,
your hips,
the quadricep muscles. So the point I'm trying to convey is I'm not just looking at one subjective variable. A lot of these are subjective. Some are quantifiable, as you can tell. We're having direct measurements, but I think they need to be combined in totality. And if you find that you're getting off the path, it's not a time to say like, oh my God, I've ruined everything. It's a time to be introspective and say, okay, where might I have gone awry or gone astray, and then figure it out. Okay, it looks like I was actually down about 250 calories from what I needed when you go and you recalculate like what maintenance is or what surplus, what your caloric surplus is, and say like, okay, maybe I need to actually uptick my caloric intake because I've been much more fidgety in the office for whatever reason, or because I've been going on 2 extra walks per day, whatever it is. So I think taking like a big picture look of whatever might be going awry, and then devising some strategies to fix it. I think that's a healthy way to go about it, and I think that is a logical way to go about trying to fix, like a short-term issue, because in the short term it is just a short-term issue, and you're coming up with effective strategies, hopefully to get you back on track to whatever your goal is. Yeah,
and then since we do want to go over myths, we do have probably about like 7-8 minutes left. I do want to finish up with, and I know I give Roman a hard time. Stop measuring weight at the gym, please. I see it every day at the gym I go to. One of the corporate gyms that I go to. In a perfect world, if you eat the same food every day and you drink the same amount of water, weigh yourself at the gym. If you're not,
and move the same amount every day.
Exactly, and take the same amount of steps, same amount of resistance.
Temperature outside never changes.
So if you release some sweat, don't just go to Walmart, go to Amazon, buy yourself a $10 scale. I don't give a damn if it even is electric. Do the old school one where when you step on it and it rotates manually and you have to manually adjust. Remember those?
So I need to get one. Do you a quick aside, but even for our listeners, do you recommend like a digital one? Because usually it can get down to like the 10th of
I do like digital ones, but like I said, like if it's like a price thing or like anything, just go to any, like you could probably get one at the thrift store, I'm telling you, for like $5.
And using the same one, then even if it's calibrated wrong, well at least it's like it's dialed in.
Exactly. You're gonna get recording and all that stuff. I mean, they even have scales where you step on it, it automatically pulls in the data into your phone these days. Cool. I don't have that much money to spend $200 on a scale. I literally have like a rinky-dink one from Walmart. That's literally, I use it the same one every day. If I sleep somewhere else or if I sleep at someone's house that has a scale, if I need to weigh myself, which I probably wouldn't anyways, I just step on their scale just to get a heads up in the morning. First thing in the morning after you go to the bathroom. That's what I suggest. Also, a lot of things too with CICO, calories in, calories out. There's a lot of things that Roman and I before this too were talking. But there's NEAT, which is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. I think thermogenic.
Yeah, you're right.
Activity when it comes to, how much does your body burn when you're sitting all day? How much does your body burn just your heart beating all day? Things like that. Digestion rate of certain foods, as well as what kind of foods you're eating in totality.
Yeah. So NEAT is more like the fidgeting. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So like what I'm doing right now, I'm just moving my hands and talking like I usually do. That's burning calories, guys.
If maybe subconsciously, or you're just like, I'm gonna go for an extra walk, on like on my break today instead of just sitting. That's usually calculated into what's called NEAT, or that non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
So stuff is not really like exercise technically.
Yeah.
Everything else besides it.
Because how do you calculate this when you're talking on the phone to a potential customer? How do you calculate all these movements that you're doing? And this does burn a lot. It does burn a lot in like the grand scheme of things. I wouldn't say like start fidgeting in your chair. Don't change your habits.
You're gonna be looking like a wild person if someone sees you on the street and you're just fidgeting the whole time.
Just something we do subconsciously.
Yeah. So for this last part of the piece, because now we're at like 6 minutes. We're going to do some nutritional myths, which I think is pretty funny and interesting, because this is a great thing that probably Roman and I have gotten asked many of times in our experience or seen it on. Do you want to start with one?
Yeah, sure. Certain foods revving up your metabolism, that really doesn't exist. A slight caveat, maybe protein. Protein has a higher thermic effect of food, meaning that like it creates like more heat when it's being burned, or no, it doesn't create. Sorry, it has a tendency to mobilize itself in such a way where when it is being broken down in our body, it creates quite a significant amount of heat that is calculated into the 4 calories per gram of protein that's taken in, but some individuals believe that the thermic effect of protein is more, I think, on a sliding scale is probably how they'd say it. So they've found that on higher protein diets with calories equated, I think people end up losing slightly more weight. The jury might still be out on that, but on average, there's no food that revs up your metabolism. People say like, oh, I put cinnamon on my yogurt because it revs up my metabolism.
So you're saying when I put red cayenne, whatever you want to call it, pepper in my pre-workout, and my body's just sweating profusely.
Yeah, like
it's not speeding up my metabolism.
Yeah, this isn't Breaking Bad. Jesse Pinkman with chili pepper and.
Damn it! I was really hoping that, because I really need something to boost my metabolism. No, I actually eat a decent amount of food and don't gain weight, so I'm pretty happy about it.
Chili Pete does not rev up your metabolism, so sorry about that, folks. But special foods that rev up your metabolism, just throw that one out.
Yeah, and also speeding up metabolism, you can't really speed up because that's pretty much genetic as well as your physical activity too. So like unless you don't move and you have the best genetics, your metabolism is probably going to go in a bad place.
Yeah.
But if you do consider activity, I think your metabolism is going to be better off anyways.
Yeah. So metabolism is also like a balancing scale. It's the combination of your anabolism, or what building blocks or nutrients that you essentially like smush together. Like protein is catabolized into amino acids, and then it's anabolized back into proteins in the muscle. There's a whole lot. It's much more complex than that, but that's just like a easy way to look at it. So metabolism is a combination of anabolism, or the building of nutrient blocks, and catabolism is the breaking down of those building blocks.
I like how you say anabolism.
Anabolism. Right?
Anabolism?
Yeah.
It's just so close to
anabolism.
Yeah, it just sounds so much like anabolic.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's and then probably for the last one, since we're running out of time. There was actually a lot more I had, but it's because there's a lot out there, guys.
Yeah.
If you want to ask us any more, we could definitely give you that list. But my favorite to this day, I mean, I wrote down a lot, and I don't know how Roman feels about this. Testosterone boosting foods.
Ginger, baby.
If you boil down a ginger and drink it for the rest of your life, you will have an increase in testosterone. I think that's how we should end it. We shouldn't even break this myth.
We should give a caveat that I have heard, and like I know next to Jack Squad about this, but I have heard that certain foods with certain populations that are extremely low, extremely low, they may open and allow pathways to begin to like restore themselves. For something similar to that, if you're part of the average population, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I would say I wouldn't do something to that effect unless your doctor recommended it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Most Western doctors aren't going to recommend something like that because I think the majority of evidence suggests that that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean the only way physically you're gonna boost, you're not and also supplements too. Don't make me the supplement and test booster and supplements too. They're the only way you're gonna get more testosterone is if you get either prescription or illegally testosterone, and you inject it.
Yeah.
Orally, syringely. Just made that up. Orally, syringely, whatever the heck you instead of syringes, I should probably just say injectables. Unless your doctor is suggesting some foods, it's probably not going to get you there, and you're not going to get super natural powers because you're on alpha test booster, deer antler. What is it? Deer antler extract. You might as well just put vanilla extract and put in your mouth and just pretend like it's deer antler extract.
Yeah.
It's probably the same shit.
Your testosterone, go to the gym, work out,
and be healthy.
Yeah. Eat an adequate diet.
And also, when you're probably overweight or underweight, your testosterone is going to drop anyways. So I mean that's like a whole nother podcast. But underweight, overweight is probably the only other way you'll probably affect your testosterone. But I think that's it, folks. You're in for another episode. Catch us on. We're gonna be we're probably gonna stay the same schedule every week. But thanks for tuning in. This is episode 7. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Stitcher, YouTube. Follow us. Go follow Roman's YouTube channel, his Instagram, my Instagram, to get any questions answered. All the information is going to be there, and we'll see you next time. Peace.